Episode 30, The Conflict Approaches. Luigi stood in the top of one of the skyscrapers in New Donk City, looking out over the sea of ruined buildings towards the brightly lit skyline of Koopa Central. A hot wind blew past him, carrying with it the foul scent of the Koopa Empire's factories. The Imperial Citadel loomed before him, its towers and battlements seeming so immense it looked to Luigi like it was near invincible.
An intimidating sight, ain't it?
Yoshi said, crossing his arms as he joined Luigi.
I'm kind of used to it,
Luigi admitted, scratching his head.
It's bigger than usual, but it's just another one of Bowser's hundreds of castles. My bro and I got through all the others, so.
Yoshi laughed.
You know, I wish everyone in Fire Flower was that optimistic,
he admitted.
Things get depressing out here, with the sun never being out and everything.
He glanced up at the red sky.
Seriously, do the Koopas like this? How's Yoshi's Island?
Luigi asked curiously.
Not good.
Yoshi's eyes grew hard.
It's the location of a big Koopa troop fortress belonging to one of their top generals. A man called General Guy. Isn't that the person with the toy tank?
Luigi asked, thinking back to Mario's stories about his adventures.
My bro didn't make him seem that threatening. Nah, this is a different General Guy,
Yoshi replied.
He was a sergeant back in the good old days. He's really not that intimidating on his own, but the problem with him is that he heads a special Koopa troop division dedicated to tracking down Princess Peach. Princess Peach!
Luigi exclaimed. If the Koopa troop didn't know where she was, that meant that she couldn't be being held prisoner.
Yoshi, do you?
Yoshi shook his head sadly.
Sorry, Luigi,
he replied.
Princess Peach's location is still a mystery. She hasn't been seen since the Battle of Toad Town. A lot of the folks here at Fire Flower think she's dead. She's alive,
Luigi replied, his eyes hard. Sure, he didn't have any proof to back it up, but the alternative was just far too depressing.
She's just hiding out until Bowser's defeated.
Yoshi smiled.
Well, if that's true then we're going to be making a big move towards her coming back,
he said.
If we break Roy's hold on the Sand Kingdom and the rest of the smaller territories under Sector 4, that'll be freeing thousands of people from one of the cruelest rulers in the Empire. It'll be the greatest act of heroism since the Shroops were driven out.
Oh yeah! Luigi exclaimed, smiling. It was odd. Even though he was in the midst of an incredibly depressing area, with evidence of their destruction all around and the greatest symbol of their power on the horizon, he hadn't felt this happy in ages.
Yoshi, we're gonna save those people,
he said, placing a gloved hand on Yoshi's shoulder.
We're going to ride out against the Koopas and fight a battle that'll make Mario proud. That's the spirit,
Yoshi exclaimed.
Too bad I can't come with you. Gotta do mission control here at the main base. Ah!
Luigi sighed. He had been looking forward to jumping on Yoshi's back and blasting through the enemies, classic style. Following his conversation with Yoshi, Luigi made his way down the stairs of the empty skyscraper and back into the Fire Flower headquarters. The underground base was abuzz with activity, the members of Fire Flower rushing every which way presenting their superiors with reports. As Luigi entered the main control room, he saw that every member was on their computer, doing research on Neon City. A green-capped, mustached toad wearing a purple shirt and cape made his way over to Yoshi.
Yoshi, we have confirmed reports that Neon City only has 20% of its usual defense force,
the toad reported.
The rest of his army is fighting in the war. If we strike now, we will have our best opportunity to remove Roy Koopa from power. Wonderful, Toadificus.
Yoshi nodded, before turning to Luigi.
Luigi, right now, it's about 6 o'clock in the morning. By next evening, I'll want the attack to begin.
Luigi's eyes widened. Next evening? That was so soon. He didn't know if he was ready to fight Roy. He was still out of shape, when the burly Koopaling would have been training through all those years.
Yoshi. It's our only chance, Luigi.
Yoshi said seriously.
We don't know what his next move will be. If his forces win any of the battles they are currently fighting, some of them could return to the city. We can't let this opportunity disappear. Oh. Okay.
Luigi nodded. His heart was beating in his chest. So it was going to be him and Roy, going at it again. He hadn't fought any of the Koopalings since the Battle of Toad Town.
As you have ordered, ships from all of our cells are convening at our meet-up location.
Toadificus said to Yoshi.
We will have a full-fledged fleet to deal with any ships and defenses Roy still has with him. Yoshi, don't worry.
Luigi said, summoning up his confidence.
I can handle this. I am a Mario bro, remember? Of course.
Yoshi nodded.
May the stars shine down on you, Luigi.
Filled with confidence, Luigi made his way to the hangar. The stolen Koopa airship loomed before him, surrounded by a fire flower pit crew that was giving it last-minute check UPS. He straightened his cap. Luigi hoped that somehow, Mario was watching him. He was so nervous he was shaking in his boots, but he wasn't about to back away. For the first time, he was about to strike the Koopa Empire a serious, threatening blow. Yoshi turned to Toadificus once Mario had left. He took a deep breath. He felt bad leaving Luigi in the dark about this, but somehow he thought that the plumber would be opposed to the second phase of Operation Broken Sunglasses.
Is it ready, Toadificus?
He asked.
Of course, Yoshi.
Toadificus nodded.
Our technicians just finished stabilizing the core. Once Luigi defeats Roy, the nuclear bomb will be ready to go. That's great, Toadificus.
Yoshi nodded. The green dinosaur turned to look at the giant, glowing fire flower symbol that loomed over the base. Fire flowers. They were a source of destruction to any enemy of their wielder. The Mushroom Kingdom. No, the world, had suffered long enough. It was time to bring that destruction to their enemies. One of the reasons why Ludwig von Koopa had chosen to build his castle in the Wooded Kingdom's mountains was because of the caves. Huge natural caverns, artificially enlarged, were the perfect places to design his weapons. Neither High Command or his pesky siblings could have any idea of what he was working on until he felt ready to reveal it. Once again, Ludwig complimented himself for his foresight in choosing where he would establish his sector of control. The Wooded Kingdom's lack of big cities was a small sacrifice to make for the creation of the Neo-Empire. Ludwig stood on a high metal balcony, overlooking a gigantic cavern lit by harsh industrial lights. Hundreds of technicians scurried about below him, preforming the final touch UPS on his latest creation. Ludwig gripped the railing and smiled. He had been barely 10 years old when he had built the first airship. He had had old blueprints of aircraft his grandfather had developed for the war against the Mushroom Kingdom, of course, but he had made dozens of improvements. This design, which he had come to refer to as the airship Mk1, had served the Koopa troop throughout all of his father's kidnapping schemes and the struggles against Mario. Later, after Mario's death, when the Koopa troop had entered into war with the Metro Kingdom, the last struggle until they established the worldwide empire, Ludwig had created a new airship, once that was larger and stronger, the airship Mark II, the Kuppa battleships currently used by the Kuppa troop. But Ludwig, naturally, aimed higher. The airship Mark III was larger than the Kuppa battleships, built of shiny, light blue metal instead of wood. It had a long, sleek design, looking less like a floating sailing ship and more like a futuristic capital ship. A long tower rose over the ship, at the top of which was situated the bridge. While he had foregone most of the airship's typical homages to ocean-going ship design, he had naturally decided to keep the figurehead. Nobody was going to look at this beautiful work of art without knowing that he had built it. Ludwig heard footsteps beside him, and he turned to see a golden-robed Magic Koopa with hexagonal etchings in her robe join him in looking over the massive development hangar.
"Impressive as always, Ludwig von Koopa,"
she said.
"Ah, Lady Krizina."
Ludwig greeted his ally cordially. The Yellow Star had been staying at his castle ever since she had arrived, and Ludwig was not yet certain if he felt comfortable with the shadowy underworld leader observing his operations. Still, the cooperation of 7 stars was far too important to his plans for him to voice any complaints.
"The technology provided by your organization is superb."
Ludwig smiled, gesturing over at the battleship before them.
"The shrewd technology you provided has opened my mind up to countless new ideas and allowed me to develop a new energy weapon that will replace those primitive bill blasters on my airship Mark III. You can give my thanks to the Grand Star." "Glad to see you are pleased with our deal."
Krizina nodded.
"The board of directors looks forward to a continuation in our partnership. So long as you continue to provide, I would be happy."
Ludwig responded, turning around with a swish of his cape and walking towards the door. His mind was not on 7 stars or Krizina at the moment. It was only on the war. Reports were flying in. Already half of the Snow Kingdom was under Neo-Empire control, along with a quarter of the various islands that composed Sector 5. The one issue with his conquest was in Sector 2, in which the combined might of Morton and Bowser Jr.'s armies were actually managing to push his soldiers back.
"Curse that Bowser Jr."
Ludwig thought to himself as the iron doors to the elevator automatically opened.
"Sector 2 will be the first part of my father's empire I will test my scientific achievements against."
Ludwig entered the elevator, his face curving into a cruel smile. Yes, everything was going to be perfect soon. Sectors 5 and 6 would fall in a matter of weeks. Once Sectors 2 and 8 were destroyed, all that remained was Kuppa Central. He was going to enjoy crushing his father almost as much as he was going to enjoy finally seating himself upon the Kuppa throne. His birthright would be restored to him. If his mother, Queen Lavaria Kuppa, could see him now, she'd be proud. They had always been close. She had talked to him often about what it meant to be a good king. She would understand the sacrifices he had made, Ludwig told himself. She would be pleased he had reprehended his spoiled younger siblings who thought they could get away with everything and dealt with his delusional father. The Neo-Empire would stand the test of time, and reach not just into the Mushroom Kingdom, but into the furthest reaches of the galaxy. One day, children as far as Flipside would study in school the life and struggles of Emperor Ludwig von Koopa, the man who brought the universe into a golden age of prosperity. Krizina joined Ludwig in the elevator as the doors closed. With a low rumble, it began to rise.
"Prince Ludwig, I have some news to convey to you,"
she said, glancing up at him.
"The board of directors are further intrigued by your work here and your plans for the world. The Purple Star, in particular, has decided to come visit you."
Ludwig crossed his arms and looked away. He had become worried that Krizina was becoming entitled. Yes, she was one of the heads of 7 stars, and Ludwig's cooperation with 7 stars had been a critical part of his rebellion. However, Ludwig had recently made the decision to begin slowly breaking his reliance on them. If the Neo-Empire was completely dependent on 7 stars, he would end up becoming a pawn of the Grand Star, as opposed to them simply having a partnership. Of this he was certain: 7 stars had become the undisputed ruler of the international underworld by ruthlessness. They had had several governments in their pocket before his father's conquests, and he did not doubt they just considered him a means to an end. The problem, for them, at least, was that he, also, considered them nothing more than that.
The Purple Star may do what he likes,
Ludwig replied simply.
I do hope he's fond of what I'm doing here. Prince Ludwig, you do not understand,
Krizina replied sharply.
The Purple Star is a member of what we refer to as the Trinity of 7 stars. The Purple Star and Blue Star, together under the Grand Star's leadership, have authority over the rest of the board of directors. He is my superior. I suggest you treat him as such.
Ludwig chuckled.
My dear Yellow Star, I don't have time to be hosting fancy dinner parties,
he said, brushing back his blue hair.
Oh, rest assured, the Purple Star will be treated with the most hospitality, but if you believe he will be given my undivided attention, well, you obviously don't know me, Krizina.
Krizina was silent.
Very well, Prince Ludwig.
She nodded.
I hope you understand the terms of our agreement, correct? If we are displeased with you, we can terminate our partnership and you will be left without a supplier.
The doors to the elevator hissed open, and Ludwig stepped into one of the elegant blue-draped halls of his palace. The electronic lights on the bronze chandeliers dimmed to resemble candlelight.
Oh, don't fret, Krizina,
Ludwig replied, his eyes shining in the light.
I'm too good of a friend for that, wouldn't you agree?